This is the DJI Mini 5 Pro, a tiny little drone under 250 grams. And the question I'm asking myself today is, can it be used for shooting professional stills? I was hired by the amazing team here at Gallas Inn to shoot some photos and videos of their glass igloo resort here on the coastline of Finland. And I wanted to see what kind of photos could I take with the DJI Mini 5 Pro. So I thought I'd take you along, show you my process and my settings to show you just how I got these photos. So let's go over my settings first, and then we're gonna go out and shoot. So first, you're gonna go to your main settings, and when you first start out, you're probably gonna have the custom basic settings open up. And the first thing I'm gonna change is to go from JPEG to RAW, because I want full flexibility of my white balance and being able to change exposure without damaging my photos. Now, you can just choose white balance auto, but I like to choose the white balance that already gives me the best looking image that I want in the end, even though I know I can change this afterwards because they are RAW photos. But personally, I find that it always feels better to be getting the shots perfectly in camera already, because it just makes you feel like, yeah, I'm doing a good job, I'm getting nice photos. From there, I'm gonna choose 4:3 because I want a wider, bigger resolution than just 16:9. And then I'm gonna go from resolution 12 megapixels to 50 megapixels because I want the most high quality photos I can possibly take with my drone. When it comes to the settings, obviously I want to keep the ISO as low as possible to reduce noise, but if I need more light or I need a higher shutter speed, then I'm going to increase the ISO. And I always want to make sure I have a high enough shutter speed to get sharp, crystal clear photos. And this totally depends on the circumstances and where I am, whether it's movement or a static shot like today with these igloos. There's not much movement, so I can go with a lower shutter speed. Right now, it's a little bit harsher conditions still because there's a strong backlight with the igloos. And one thing you can do to get more detail in your shots is to use bracket shooting. So if you go to the menu, you have AEB, and then you can choose whether it takes 3 images or 5 images from different exposures. And then in Lightroom, you can then import them and combine them together to get as much detail as possible in your photo. So that's one little trick if you want to get even more detail in harsh conditions. Another thing I really enjoy shooting with the Mini 5 Pro is the fact that you can turn the gimbal vertical and landscape, meaning I can take both horizontal and landscape photos for the client because, you know, for the website, they might want some landscape photos, but then for social media, they'll want vertical photos. So there's my settings. It's a lot more simple choosing settings for photo mode than it is when you're shooting video on a drone, but still, it's really important that you have these dialed in so you get the highest quality photos coming out of your DJI Mini 5 Pro. All right, it's time to go out and shoot some photos, and then we'll jump into Lightroom and do some editing and show the final results. All right, the drone's in the air. Let's see what kind of photos we can shoot. First, I'm gonna just get my settings dialed in. We're gonna shoot vertical, and then we're gonna go. Again, this is what I mean by I like to dial in my white balance just to feel good about the photos I'm taking, even though I know they're shooting in RAW, so I can just go afterwards, but I like my photos a lot warmer. And with the igloos in the shade here, they're much colder, so we're gonna get some shots here. I like the crop of that big rock in the bottom. Shooting a little bit underexposed just so I can save the detail in the highlights. Let's see if we go down lower so we can kind of block the... We can block the pathway. Okay, so there's some sun rays going from over here. I love drones and photography with them because you can just kind of float around everywhere and just like find the unique angles. Like I can't just get in the water all of a sudden with a camera, but I can with the drone. So we're gonna go here. That's too low. Let's try the higher version. Okay, that's pretty sweet. That one igloo's kind of like randomly, well, that's actually pretty good. Okay, let's do some top-down verticals over here. Gonna increase the shutter speed. Again, I'm gonna make the white balance even warmer. It looks sweet with the coastline there and the igloos all lined up. This is what I love about drones. You would never get this perspective with your normal eyes, but then with a drone. Oh man, I'm fighting against the wind right now. I try to go left to move and it's just like saying high wind speed detected. This is a little bit of a fight for the Mini 5 Pro because it is a little guy and these are harsh conditions. Okay, the light is back there and there's these 3 drones here. I want to get some crazier sunset. There we go. Let's try to see if I get angled these 2 drones only. Is there a tree or something here? You gotta love having such nice sensors to stop yourself. Okay, that's some cool lighting coming from down there behind the one igloo. Let's get a little bit closer. That's cool. It's got the little igloo back there. I think with the photography, especially drone photography, it's a lot of just exploring different angles, seeing how does the light hit from different places. This is pretty cool. Getting like kind of the front shot of all their buildings here. Oh yeah, that looks sweet. Let's just increase the shutter speed just a little bit. Oh, did you see that little light come off? Okay, yeah, let's get that in there. But here, for example, the back sky is very blown out. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some bracketing. Let's do 3 and then 5, just to see if we can get more detail in the back there. It does take a little bit of time, especially with the high 50 megapixels, but it's worth it. You're going to get some cool shots out of this. We can even do a little comparison of just the normal photo and then these bracket shooting photos. Let's do as well 5. So it's essentially taking 5 photos with different exposures and then combining them together to make sure there's more detail in the highlights and shadows. Okay, I'm gonna now fly over to the coastline just to get some cool dramatic ocean wave shots because I think that could be cool. Just to get a variety so it's not just all igloo shots for them. They also have this cool white lighthouse right here. That's pretty cool with the ladder there. Sweet ladder. Let's go around the other side and see what kind of can we put it right behind the sun? Yes, we can. Again, I'm going to shoot just a little bit underexposed. Oh, that looks sweet with the islands back there. The sun coming through. Very precision, just trying to get just a little bit of that flare sun in the background. Let's line it up in between those 2 islands. You see me, I'm just doing like little micro adjustments just to get the... They also have this cool red lighthouse. So let's get some photos of that for them too. Just get a variety. A lot of times I notice that you can kind of get stuck shooting just the main thing always. So it's like, I'm only going to shoot the glass igloos, but there's other things here at their property that are worth shooting. For example, this cool lighthouse slash dock they've built here. And again, I'm just trying to move around and get different angles and trying to work my magic here. This is like their saunas and their hot tubs. White balance a little bit warm now. Let's see if we can just... see if we can get some cool shots shooting through the windows of the lighthouse. Rotating around, just trying to see what other things there are. Yes, we need to get some of those coastline. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. Kind of like a top-down shot of the coastline here. Just gonna wait for these waves to come in. There's a nice little two rocks there. This little coastline here. Just exploring. We're just going around and just like seeing what can we shoot, what kind of details. A lot of times drones you gotta get higher, lower. Gotta try out all the different angles so you can see exactly what's gonna look like. Another kind of angle with the leading one in the front. Kind of shows with the water in the background. Playing with the camera angle as well, the gimbal angle is always great. You can all of a sudden get a totally new shot with a different angle. I'm just taking a whole bunch of photos because it doesn't matter. I can just delete them afterwards if I don't like them. See if we can get some cool sun flares. There's a nice little flare coming into the left side of the lens of the drone. Let's go as high as possible. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna get a shot of that archipelago over there. 2 times does look cool. See, this is one of the things. I'm focusing on just like the God is in thing, but like turn around and there's really cool compositions right in front of you. And if I didn't turn around and look around, I wouldn't get that shot. So let's go to wide as well and get a little bit closer. Right now I'm as high as I can go, 120 meters. I think this is because there's an airport nearby that you can't go any higher. Battery's running out, time to return home. Hard day's work done, sauna time. My friend Tuomo joined me on this work outing for a remote work day. How does the content creator life feel?
Feels good.
Luxurious, right? You know, these are the...
There's no
It's always like this. We're always going to glass igloos and staying at these epic locations.
no stressing about the
Never.
Sun setting or
No,
anything.
no stress at all right here. Everything's all rosy here. These are like the 10% moments. These happen once every few months, but when they do happen, it's always nice to take advantage of it. After a long day of driving and shooting all day, there's honestly no better way to end the day than with a sauna and a cold plunge in the sea. Of course, then the team at Galala's Inn spoiled us with a 3-course dinner, and just when you thought the day couldn't get any better, something happened that I wasn't expecting to happen at all. The Northern Lights. You see, where we were in Finland, it's not normal to see the Northern Lights. Most of the time you see it up north, but on that day, not only did we have clear skies, but I happened to just check for fun, what's the forecast for Northern Lights? And the possibility of seeing them that day was actually very high. So while we were watching Happy Gilmore #2, enjoying our evening with Tuomo, all of a sudden I saw something in the sky and I thought, is that the Northern Lights? And quickly, frantically, I ran out and I started just chasing the Northern Lights. It was chaotic, but these are the photos and shots I was able to get. All right, so let's look at some of the photos that I was able to capture with the DJI Mini 5 Pro, because that's what this video is all about. Can you actually shoot professional photos that your client would be happy with a small little drone like this? So let's jump into Lightroom, and I've pre-selected a few photos and gone through and edited them. For these photos, I wanted to really warm, kind of blue and orange complementary tones because they are autumn photos, so I wanted it to almost feel like the forest is just burning fire. I'll show some of the photos and the before and after the edit. So as you can see, you know, there's a lot of green actually in the photos, but with my edit, I was able to kind of bring them into this kind of orange complementary with the blue sea. And I think this is a really cool edit. Let's see some other images. There's another one. This was pretty crazy looking. Look at this before, after. This shot was really cool, just with the shadows of the trees, like showing up on the road, and then with me there in the middle. Some of these edits are still in the works, but this one as well. Look at this shot. It looks cool, but then with this, it just looks really nice with this complementary orange and then the blue. How I was able to achieve this was using the HSL. So if I turn this on and off, you can see before there's a lot of yellow and green. And then what I did was I just brought the sliders first, the green, I brought more to yellow like this. And then I brought the yellow more to orange. That way I'm able to kind of decrease the amount of colors in the photo and then just bring it so that's only orange and then blue in the image. And that's how I got these photos edited. In the end, I was actually really happy with the results that I was able to get with the Mini 5 Pro, and so was the team at Galala's Inn, so that was an overall success. All right, so final thoughts on shooting professional photos with the Mini 5 Pro, pros and cons. And the first thing that comes to mind is just how easy it is to take this drone along with you and how easy it is to shoot with. And because there's no friction when shooting with this drone, it makes you actually want to go out and shoot more. So I think with the Mini 5 Pro, I'm much more likely to just throw it up in the air and shoot and take it along with me on trips like this, and that's a huge pro of this drone. Another great thing is the fact that it's just so quiet and discreet, especially when you're shooting at a hotel. You know, people have paid hundreds of euros to have a relaxing stay at Galala's Inn, stay in those igloos, and there'd be nothing worse than having this really loud drone ruining their peace and quiet. So the fact that this is just so small, so discreet, and so quiet was really nice to go out and shoot photos with. On the shooting side, it was really nice that you have the rotating gimbal so that you can shoot both landscape and vertical. And now with the upgraded 1-inch sensor and the ability to take 50 megapixel stills, it's actually a really great image that you're getting out of this small drone. Especially when you compare it to previous versions like the Mini 3 Pro, I barely ever took photos with it. Now, what are the cons? Well, I definitely noticed in some shots the lack of dynamic range. You know, if you're taking photos with, for example, the Mavic 4 Pro, you'd get even more dynamic range, which would give you more information in the highlights and shadows. And sometimes I faced problems with that It did help to take the bracket photos because then I was able to get a little bit more information in the highlights and then edit those and work with that. But that's one limitation of the Mini 5 Pro. And then another limitation is the low light capabilities. When the Northern Lights came out, I wanted to take some photos of them with the drone and it just couldn't handle it. I was already trying earlier with the full moon out, and even at 2-second shutter speed, ISO 1600, it was still pretty dark. And also the problem, if you're doing a really long shutter speed, like 2 seconds, if it's even slightly windy, the drone is moving a little bit because it's not as strong as bigger drones, and then you're gonna get a blurry photo. And last, one con was the lack of different focal lengths. I think it would bring a lot more variety to my shots rather than always just shooting with the wide if I was able to do some tighter shots, just to bring a more diversification to my photography. But for a drone that only cost $1,000 and the fact that it's just so small, easy to take along with you, so discreet, I would say that for many shoots, the Mini 5 Pro is more than enough. Of course, if you're doing a really high-end commercial where people are paying a lot of money for and expecting top value, then you probably would want to use like a Mavic 4 or an Inspire drone. But I would say for companies or organizations that maybe don't have the highest budget, they'd be more than happy with the quality coming out of the Mini 5 Pro. And then for me as a creator, you know, posting mostly on socials, I think it's great for me. So I'm not complaining when it comes to the Mini 5 Pro. So yeah, that's professional photography with the Mini 5 Pro. Can you do it? I think so. Of course, a Mavic 4 Pro would be great, but it's probably just not attainable for everyone. And also, does everyone want to lug that around? Probably not. So that's this week's video. We'll see you next week. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe.